help me to understand which technology you are working right now and your current responsibility in your project?
Okay, so currently I was working with it's sort of game application React. So in the technologies we were using React and Redux for the state container, and then I'm also using the routing, and I have also implemented the SignalR in this because it was a game application and we needed to share the data from front end to back end in the real time. So, and my main responsibility is to create the UI components and add the functionality as per the Figma design that client shared. So these are the roles and responsibilities.
Okay, so in your current project, you are consuming APIs also, right?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. How you are handling JDoku token in your current project?
Okay, so we were storing it into the local storage.
And how are you consuming it?
So so once user login, so we are setting the token, and then if user log out, then we are removing it. And while for few components that are only restricted if user has logged in, so we are creating a protected out. So in that we have using the routing's outlet. So if they have the token, then only user can access that particular component. Otherwise, it will be redirected to.
Okay. Can you help me to understand the difference between ES6 and ES5 standards? How both are different from each other?
Okay, till ES6 before coming ES6, in ES6 we got main updates. I would say major updates of the JavaScript. So in that we also got introduced to the promises. So we using the then and catch, and then before that they were using some some HTTP request, or it was supposed to it creates a callback hell when they were try to manage asynchronous tasks. So they introduced it in ES6, and also we got array destructuring and object destructuring, and also there were only earlier was only the where type of keyword. They also introduced lat and const in the ES6 updates. So these are few major updates. And if you want to enable these kind of features prior to ES6 or ES5, then Babel works with Webpack and React, so that those features can also be enabled in the browser.
Okay. And what is the use of render?
Render. So render is basically to represent the element into the UI. So basically if well, I have mainly worked with functional components, but I have also have knowledge of the class components. So in class components, the render method is the mandatory one, because let's say if there's some change into the props and it gets into the component and then they apply it, then only after render we can show it into the UI.
Okay. And what is higher order component in ReactJS?
Okay. So basically it represents an enhanced component.
Okay, got it. And your working experience, functional component or class component as well?
No, only in functional components. For class components, I have read about it, the main component.
And what are the features in React you're using? Which library or framework you're using in your React project?
In React, mainly for routing, React Router DOM, and then I've also used it for API calls. I'm using Axios, and I was recently I've also implemented SignalR. So that is come from the API is in backend that he is using .NET. So that's why the SignalR that supports React. So these are few libraries.
Or binding your APIs, you're using Axios?
Yes, I use both Fetch and Axios.
Fetch and Axios. Okay, can you help me to understand how are you using Axios and Fetch?
How? Okay, so basically I prefer to use it with try catch. So let's say if I get an API, so I get if I'm using fetch, then I'll fetch it. I using async await. So if I add async any in front of any functions, it expects one await in the inside it. So I'll get the data and then response that I get. Then I will convert it into the JSON, and then only I can like consume it, or to like if I want to show it, map it and then show into the UI. And then for Axios, in Axios, there's one benefit, like we don't need to convert. Axios directly returns us the data into the like JSON form, so I can directly consume it.
Okay, which one you think is more efficient, like Fetch or Axios?
Like if you want to like use an external library, then Axios. Otherwise, if for the native, if I go, then Fetch, because in Fetch we like there's one step more need to convert into like JSON also, while Axios handles it automatically.
Okay, can you like help me why we are using e dot by default? Sometimes like I had to call a function, and we're using e dot by default. Why we are using
Like for example, the common example is for forms, like uh, because in HTML, if you submit, so it basically refreshes the pages. So to print and then refreshes the page. So with e dot prevent default, we like it stops it like a default nature.
No, I'm asking you. You were talking about like when we click on submit button, then it behave its own natural behavior, like refresh the page,
Yes, yes.
or it will work for each and every step.
No, not for everything. The prevent default is basically if we want like to control the like default nature, let's say HTML tags.
Yeah, what I'm asking is, what is default nature of HTML?
Okay, so like for example, sometimes for anchor tag, but in React we have the link, so it opens to the like take us to the like next page. So if we're using don't prevent default, that can stop that. So in this kind of cases,
Okay, you have
yes,
an idea about dependency array.
yes.
What is it?
Okay, so in React, like mainly in the like when we do like API calls in UseEffect, so it has the dependency array. So if we are having the dependency array, it will, if it is empty, then it will run only once. And if I add some dependency, let's say for example, I'm creating like pagination, and I'm getting the data like on by pages, so I can add that like a particular state into the dependency. So if there is any change in that, then only it will again make the API call. And if we are not using it, then it will run on every render. So let's say I have one input also. So if someone is typing, so it will run on every render.
Okay, I need to understand server side rendering and client side rendering.
Yes, I have the idea. Like in server side rendering, it like for the rendering done or the like the client side by default. In server side, done on the server side. So it basically like reduce the load of the like initial load of the application.
In React.memo. And why we are using it?
Okay, so React.memo is like, as the name suggests, for the memoization purpose. For let's say I have one parent component and one child component. If there is any changes happen into the parent component, it renders, and it also renders the child component because it is inside it. So if we are wrapping that child component or any component into the memo, then it will not it will not render on every changes. So basically, it memoizes and will not until unless there is a change in its proper state.
Okay, and what are higher order component?
Higher order components. Higher order components are basically the component that takes another component as an argument and returns an enhanced component.
Okay, help me to understand why we implement lazy loading.
Okay, so lazy loading is like uh, what React does when we create like any application into the React. So it basically when we like create the bit, so it basically bundles the whole create a bundles of the whole application or whole code. And if you're using like lazy loading, then what it does is basically split the code into like many chunks, and only the required components will be loaded. So in that way, it decreases.
Then you have to create a form and it's multiple will like user click on add button, then it will create multiple forms on the same screen. How are you going to handle it with function?
So once I click on like button, it creating form.
Yes.
Forms, I think. Because we handle handle the form data and we create forms, but I don't think I got your question completely. So you're saying
No, I'm just asking you, for the first time, like on the screen, you don't have any form, right?
right.
You have a button to create a form. How are you going to implement it?
Okay.
It's not like show height. You don't need to show height that. I'm just asking about the multiples. Like whenever you're clicking on that button, you have to create multiple forms. Then that can be a list of forms. Like it can be 1, 2, 3, or multiple. It will be inside an array.
Okay. Okay. So for example, once we are clicking on button, so we must be like, let's say if I have one state that is in true or false case. So if it is true, then that means user just click. So I can inside create like.
Your working experience in reduction also, like if you have to you have some of kind of documents.
Yes, I have.
And
Sorry, what?
just asking about, you have multiple documents, like it's email, sometimes it can be PDF or Excel, and you have to display it like go to list whenever you're clicking on any of uh, like item, and it will open as per the module. Like you click on image, then it will open in the image reduction, and whenever you click on Excel, it will open in the Excel. Like you have to display that. And what kind of library you are using for that, or is it possible to like directly display without using any library in ReactJS?
Okay, maybe, but like actually, I haven't implemented like this kind of functionality in my application, so I don't have the like exact idea. Um, but I think there are some like third party library that we use for like this kind of operations.
Okay. So you have any idea about strict mode in ReactJS?
Strict, yeah, sorry, strict mode.
Yes.
So strict like by default it is the like development mode. So like if you have created like some component, if you try to console log anywhere, try to see and console log, you will see that it in the inspect it always comes like 2 times. So this is because of the strict mode. So it basically checks uh, like the like your component also renders like 2-3 times. So basically to check if it is working fine or not. So it is on the development mode. Once you probably deploy it, and then it is not the case.
Okay. And can you help me to understand props drilling also, and how we can avoid it?
Okay. So prop drilling is basically when let's say I have 3 components: grandparent, parent, and child. If I try to pass some data to the child, it will have to go through the parent also. But parent has no work of that prop. And so this is the common example. But in case of like big application, it can be go to the 5 level, 6 level, 7 level. So this is the prop drilling. And to avoid this, we can use the native of the React, say that is the context API, and then also we can use Redux. So I have also implemented Redux. So I prefer to use Redux toolkit. So because I have also implemented it in my last 2 projects. Like, and I can also explain you the flow. So for context API, you basically create the context and in a separate .js file, and then you will consume it using the used context, and you can also create the provider, and you will pass it to the main app, so that data will go into the one and unidirectional. That is the flow of the React also. And for Redux has few main pillars. So first of all is the store. So store is basically the global store that holds the state of the whole application, and we connect or our reducers into the store. So reducers are basically pure functions which takes initial state and name and reducer. So that is basically the actions. So action is basically what for, let's say I have the example of if I am creating counter app. So once you click on increment counter, it basically it increase it. So action is, this is the action increment. So we also create it into the reducer, and the reducer is also responsible to how to update the state. So in this case, it is increasing the state by adding the one more. And then to send one action to the reducer, we use dispatch from the Redux. And to read the value from the store, we use selector. And we using the Redux provider, we pass it to the app component. So in the same way, it will be passed to the whole application.
Okay. One last question from my side. Like for the first, when you user is logged in inside your application and they are it has some data from the login API. You have two options to store it in session and you can store it in Redux also. But you have to maintain, you have to use the data in your complete project. So which one is more preferable, using Redux or session, and why you are choosing?
Okay, for in our case of project, it was the requirement that we got. So we were saving it into the local storage, and you can also save it into the session. In I think in session and local storage, the size we have 4 to 5 MB we can save, and for this Redux I haven't stored. So far that I know.
Okay, which one is more efficient to use in the Redux or local storage, your session?
Into the local storage, so because it will be saved in that so you don't need to save it again until you are until you remove it you log out or remove it by yourself, hard coded. In session it will be closed once you close the session.
Okay, and why not Redux?
For Redux, I haven't tried and saved. In my experience, we only saved mainly into the local storage.
Okay, yes, I will give you feedback to HR and she will get back to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.